Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Disney Dialogues. My friend Jen and I are here to have some fun with you guys tonight and do a little discussion with another. Jen is another amazing Disney fine artist. I'm excited.
So excited, back to back this week. Exciting. We're getting more interviews, more artists, being able to bring so much Disney magic to our viewers. I can't say enough good things.
When we started the show, we said we wanted to cover a wide range, and I think we're doing that tonight. We really add in someone with a focus on a genre of Disney that is
Mhm.
incredibly popular, and that is the whole Star Wars side of it. And when we talked to him tonight, I tell you what, his story's pretty impressive. What he built with his son. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about where he can be found and what he's doing. We're going to talk about some of his most recent pieces and maybe a look into the future too. So I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah, and I realize I don't have Star Wars ears, so I got to add that to the shopping list for next trip. I need Star Wars ears.
Oh boy, I'm gonna go looking for Star Wars ears, aren't I? And have to have a whole plethora for you to choose from.
I
Okay.
have the AP now. I can do it.
Okay. Well, I still don't mind doing the task and helping out. It gives me a chance to do something there. So, all right. Well, let's get into everything here. And what I should say is
Mhm.
first, before I have you jump on and do another one of your amazing openings with our interview discussions, let's talk about some of his art. And this is just a quick taste of the simplicity and then the colors. I mean, look at that piece with Yoda overlooking everything with the initial training. That beautiful, just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Look at, I mean, just his posters. I was really impressed with the posters. How he comes together and pulls that together. The one on the right, the whole Death Star area there, with the Kenobi fight down the bottom and everything. It's so unique. It reminded me of when we were kids and we had that giant Death Star that you could play with in the different levels with the action
Mhm.
figures and everything.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, so very detailed. And then everybody loves the stormtroopers. Whoop, where are you? Why are you hidden? There we go. Sorry about that. That's a technicality.
Are you trying to
Uh,
tell me something?
no, that's called Pete was putting it all together. I love stormtroopers and Vader, and then looking down there into the bar scene, one of my favorites. As we do, everybody tries to replicate that.
I think the thing that I like the most of his art is the color,
Mm-hmm.
the use of
Yeah.
the color. I also like the clean lines.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would have to say those are two things that definitely stand out to me. But
Yes, and his
yeah.
foreshadowing in the front with all the activity and
Mhm,
color in the back is amazing.
mhm.
I actually, when we were down just this past weekend, we were over at Olga's Cantina, and of course, obviously, I have my challenge with the left hand, and I told Preston, I said, "Look, you've got your lightsaber. Let's go in and recreate the thing where Ben Kenobi cuts off the guy's arm in the bar." Preston's like, "No, we're not doing that." I was like, "Come on, that would have been fun." But hey, live and you learn. So it
It would
is
have
what
been
it
fun.
is. Yeah, it would have been fun. Well,
If I
let's
was there, I would have done it for you.
okay, there you go. Thank you. Next time.
There you
I
go.
want to welcome everybody in and say, hey, if you want to ask a question to our guests
Mhm.
throughout tonight, please do me a favor. Just highlight us in the chat. We'll try to get to as many as we can. We've got a lot to cover tonight. And with that, I'm going to ask Jen if she would do one of her great openings for us. Jen?
Sure, yeah, let's get started. Our guest tonight has been described as a minimalist with a vintage flair, blending sleek simplicity with nostalgic charm. His artistic style draws inspiration from iconic pop culture, from the expansive universe of Star Wars to the bold graphic storytelling of Oscar winning filmmaker Saul Bass.
Yeah.
Jason W. Christman, our guest tonight, is a successful freelance creative director whose artistic creations have reached audiences all over the world. Throughout his career, he has also collaborated with some of the West Coast's top advertising agencies, leading companies, and major publications.
Yep.
Jason was quoted saying, I specifically design my pieces with the hope to inspire others. Just a few words, recognizable shapes, a pleasing color palette, lights, and a touch of texture that can set a tone and feeling for people who are not even big Star Wars fans. Yeah,
He
I
does.
believe
He
that.
does. He
100% that
100% he does.
yeah. His first officially licensed Star Wars print with Lucasfilm was released in 2012, marking
Hmm.
the beginning of an incredible journey. Since then, he has come a long way, being featured as an artist in 7 Star Wars celebration events.
Unbelievable.
If your world opened when your wait, hold on. I'm apologize. If your world opened when your heart fell for the Star Wars universe, if you love The Empire Strikes Back, admire the iconic duo of AT-ATs and probe droids, and are drawn to the wintry landscape of Hoth, then our guest has created the perfect piece of art to hang on your wall.
It
It is
started
our
from
honor. Oh,
started
I'm sorry.
it started for me in '77 with Star Wars. So
Yep.
yeah.
It is our honor to welcome Disney Dialogues, the man who proudly holds the title for the best Millennium Falcon tattoo we've ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Checked it in detail. Please join us in welcoming to the show the incredibly talented Jason W. Christman.
Hello, Jason. Welcome in. Uh,
Hello.
I tell you what, your tattoo was a topic of discussion by many people. There were many people that were incredibly jealous of your tattoo and trying to figure out how they can replicate something simple. So, thank you for joining Jen and I here tonight, and we're going to
Yeah.
have some fun. And I'm going to turn it over to Jen to get started because this is going to be a great interview.
Yep. Let's just jump right in with a basic beginning. Can you share with us just a simple introduction for anyone in our audience who may be meeting you for the first time?
Um, sure. Well, I mean, you said my name, Jason W. Christman. Hence the W. People always ask, why do I say W? And believe it or not, there are several Jason Christmans out there, and one of them happens to actually be a graphic designer who lives in Southern California and is near my age. We actually lived probably, I don't know, 10 minutes from each other at one point.
Wow.
But and there's several here in the city of Portland where I live in too and stuff. So and you know the domain name was taken, right? So I had to add the W in, and that's how I kind of pronunciate that W everywhere I go. On my business cards, it's the biggest letter, um, and uh, you know I do art for a living. Um, a photographer, painting. Uh, you know, I do 90% digital these days. Um, but I'm kind of a jack of all trades in the design world, really. I like to learn new things every day.
Love it. Love it. Our mods are going to drop links for Jason all throughout the show. So if you're watching live or on a replay, you can find all of Jason's links in the chat and also in the description of the video. You know, well, your work and the way you carry yourself as a creator seems deeply rooted in personal values. Could you share with us, kind of the role that, your father and family play in both shaping your journey and who you are as a person today?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was raised by my father. He raised me on his own when he was 18, 1971. So you don't hear that a lot, especially back then. Um, and you know, he picked me. I can remember he picked me up from school in the first grade, uh, and took me to see Star Wars when it came out. I'm fairly certain we saw it months after it came out because the lines were ridiculously long for a very long time. We watched it actually at Westgate Theater in a suburb of Portland, where it ran longer than any other theater
Wow.
in the world. It ran for over a year at this one theater. Um, and you know, so you know, my father has always encouraged me to do what I want to do and what makes me happy, and so uh, I continue to try to live my life that way, as difficult as it may be sometimes, and instill that into my own kids as well.
I love the
Um,
fact of you talking about your dad. And the picture we're showing on the screen is you guys over there on the Falcon.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a perfect
Yeah.
tie into
Mhm.
kind of how it all started years ago, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, well, that was that photo there was Star Wars Celebration Chicago
Okay.
2019. That's the year I did the Cantina print,
Okay.
and that print, that scene where we're sitting, they, they had a piece of the Millennium Falcon that you could walk through. You know what I mean? It's all set up, and I added, the hologram, of course, but uh, that celebration, that Cantina print was the fastest selling print I've ever done. It sold out in like 30 minutes. The pre-sales online. I'd never That's never happened to me before. It was over before I even knew it was on sale. You know,
Wow.
it was crazy. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I love
Um,
that, and I hope more of that happens in your life as you go through for sure. You know.
yeah. Thank you.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, as we've shown and hinted upon thus far, we can see that much of your artistic work clearly draws strong inspiration from the Star Wars universe. Can you take us back to where and when that passion for Star Wars first began, and how it has influenced your creative journey and the themes you choose to explore in your art?
Wow. I mean, it's Star Wars is that one movie that, when you watch something at 6 years old as incredible as Star Wars is for a kid, that's going to stick with you for the rest of your life, really. Um, I've just always I mean, it's the one movie I can watch over and over and over again, like many of us do. Um, uh, it's really, we've all seen, I'm sure you guys have as well, all of the, you know, behind the scenes stuff we can get our hands on, right? Every
right.
interview, every story we can listen to about it. And that every single time I hear something new about it, it just increases why I love it, you know, and why it makes sense and why it has so much influence. Um, it's different for everybody. I mean, for me, it's the storytelling. It's the lightsabers. It's the ships. It's the droids. Uh, I don't know. I just love it. I wish we could all live in that universe. Really, that would be great.
I love that. That that the storytelling is the key word. We talked about that a lot last night, and it continues to
Mhm.
flow with our artists. And I think being a story of hope. And somebody once said to me
Mhm.
one time, beside when I was saying, "Oh, it's a story of hope," and this, and they go, "Well, it's also a really good love story in a lot of ways. The love between parents and kids, the love between those who were part." And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? That's a good thing." So I love that it inspired you. I think that's great. Great question, Jen. Well, I kind of want to talk about, kind of outside of your personal family. Your dad was huge, but there have been some incredible artistic influences that have definitely shaped your journey along the way. Can you share with us the impact that visionaries like Saul Bass and George Lucas and even Richard Mclean have had on the development of you as an artist and how their work continues to inspire your creative path?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you know, we talk about George Lucas, you know, it's pretty much the same reason everyone else would
Hmm.
like George Lucas. Uh, that would be kind of vague for me to answer. But if we talk about Saul Bass, he's got that minimalist style that
Hmm.
has always set well with me. I've always been connected to mid-century modern style and design and art, uh, not just paintings, but from Frank Lloyd Wright, style architecture and sculptures and all, and advertising. It's in itself. You can
Hmm.
see that in some of my work, like with the Falcon for Hire print I
Right.
did. That's kind of my two worlds colliding because I do advertising for a living. Uh, those uh, that print is my two worlds colliding there, Star Wars and advertising. So I actually call that print, if Han Solo hired Don Draper to do a poster for him, that's what it would look like.
That's what it would look like.
Um,
That's
yeah.
great.
I love that.
And then moving on to Richard Mclean, I mean, it's funny you mention him because he was my mentor when I was younger.
Okay.
He owned a photography studio in Los Angeles that I worked at. Um, it was during the time when the digital frontier was crashing into the film. Uh, you know, we were a still photography studio, so he had a huge studio with the biggest light box you've ever seen, and we could
Hmm.
shoot boats and RVs inside the studio. It was so big.
Wow.
And I convinced his studio to hire me as a digital retoucher. And they were like, what is that? And I could retouch photos by hand, the old fashioned way. Um, but this was, Photoshop 1.0. And I was like, this is, what you got to do. It's coming. And so they hired me and bought all this expensive equipment. And next thing you know, I'm doing ads and brochures and catalogs. And all of a sudden, I'm a graphic designer at the beginning of all of that, of the digital age. Um,
Okay.
and he's also a huge Star Wars fan, Richard.
Oh,
So it was really easy for us to connect um, in the art world and in pop culture. And also the funny thing is, being a mid-century modern fan, I think I get a lot of that from him because he was a collector of mid-century modern stuff, and that just kind of rubbed off on me as well. And that's why he was a big influence on me. So
love that. Love that.
yeah.
Okay.
You once shared an incredible story involving a fan who works at the Pinewood Studios in the UK. And that's a
Mm.
story that connects one of your prints to George Lucas himself. Could you please share that moment
Yeah.
with our audience and tell us what that meant to you?
Oh yeah, that's a great story that someone just recently told me. I don't know how old the story is, because it could go back to 2015 for all I know.
Hmm.
Um, but there was a gentleman named Lee who messaged me on Facebook and said that he works at Pinewood Studios and he works up in this mezzanine area where he can oversee the workshop. And he bought my print in 2015, which was my first Star Wars celebration I did. And it is that print we just talked about that is Falcon for Hire, the mid century modern looking poster for the
For
Millennium
the
Falcon.
right.
Yeah, to Han Solo needs to find work somehow, right? So, it's an ad or a poster he could put up in Mos Eisley, and tell him where the docking bay is and what they do. Um, but he had bought that print, and it's hanging in Pinewood Studios, which alone is a great story and makes me feel special. Um, but he says it's in the corridor between the two workshops, and he has a straight shot where he can see it from his mezzanine. And he said one day George Lucas was coming through doing a tour and getting a tour of what's changed and what's new and all that stuff. And he said that he just didn't stop throughout the whole tour. They just walked, and talked, and he didn't stop anywhere and look at anything until he saw my print. And he stopped, walked up to it, and he said he must have stared at that thing for a full minute and then smiled and had a little smirk, and they moved on. It was the only time they saw him stop and look at anything. And
Wow.
I couldn't believe what I heard.
Yeah.
It was a special story that I thank him for sharing with me. So that's pretty cool. That's as close as I've gotten to George Lucas, other than being in the same vicinity as him at, like, one of these events, but not actually you know,
Mhm.
seeing him.
It's
He doesn't know I exist really, so it's all right.
well, you keep doing your artwork. He's going to because these are amazing pieces, and I know he appreciates that talent. As we talk about things, you shared with me that your son played such a key role in helping guide you to the right path of getting licensed, something that's been so important to you in your journey. Can you talk about that experience, and if you'd be kind enough, also share what it was like to build an Astro R2K2 droid together as father and son? I'd love to do that with my son. Although I think by the end of it, he would choke me like Homer Simpson for changing too many things. That would be how it would go in my house. I love this.
Yeah, well, I mean, my son, you know, when you have kids, it's such a huge influence on you right there. And his middle name is Skywalker, by the way. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, um, which, I thank my wife for letting me do. Um, he hates it and loves it. It depends on, which time of year it is and who knows and who doesn't.
Right.
Um, kids, what are you going to do? He's a teenager too. So now he's like, some kids razz him and, but he loves it. I know deep down inside he loves it. But, and he's just as big a fan as I am of Star Wars because, like you said, we've built a droid together. It's R2K2. Um, it is not a droid that has been in anything we've ever seen or read. Um, his designation K2 comes from we got the name two different ways. Uh, both of my kids' names start with the letter K, so there's
Oh,
your K2.
okay.
And we call him because it's a black and chrome uh, R2 unit. Uh, we
We
call
actually
him our repurposed Imperial astromech, like K2SO.
we
So
have
there's
the
another
we have the
reason why we
pictures
call it.
on the screen, Jason, right now, of the unit with the Grogu in the front of it. We have the picture of you there with your son, and we also have the
Oh
unit with
yeah,
up
for
top
building
with
it. Yeah.
the plates on it, so he could serve drinks like if he was out with helping
Yeah,
R2 at Jabba's thing.
I 3D printed the Java's drink tray. Yeah,
Yes,
that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. Yeah, that one image there is when we were building it. He didn't have skin on it yet. The Droid Pacific Northwest Droid Builder Club here is they were so great. They helped me so much. Uh, you know, between all the members and all the droids they have, I mean, there must be like 50 droids up here in the Pacific Northwest easily.
Wow.
And uh, they every single one of these droids is built different. They might look the same on the outside, but on the inside and the material used, every single one is so unique in every way. Mine is built from wood, aluminum, and plastic. Uh, the feet on my droid are aluminum, but that center foot I couldn't really afford all 3 feet, so I 3D printed that one. You
Oh,
know,
wow.
I mean, I made it look like metal, but it's not. Um, uh,
It looks great.
and we take Yeah, thanks. I take it with us to the shows we do, and it helps draw people in to my table. If my art doesn't, the droid does, right? And people love getting its photo, taking their photo with them. And I use a Xbox 360 Star Wars Edition C3PO controller for it,
Oh my God, that's
and
great.
I tell people it's the only time 3PO can control R2. So that's always a lot of fun. And people spot the controller a mile away too. Um,
Hey, when
and
you
they're like,
build,
"Are you controlling it with that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yes, I am." And that's it. My son, when he was 3 years old, I was teaching him how to use a mouse on a computer, and I had him on the Star Wars website, really old one. It was before Disney owned it, and they had this page where it had all these sound effects you can click, and I had him on that page, and he was clicking away on it. And for 6 months, I had been trying to find the right avenue to license the prints that I had been designing. And with no luck, I couldn't find a way to get it done. I didn't know the right door. And then as he was on that website, I looked away for a minute, and then I looked back, and all of a sudden, there was this page he had pulled up somehow that had every licensed company that Lucasfilm worked with. And I was like, where did this come from? And I couldn't Google it either. I could not pull this page up if I had Googled it. And somehow he clicked his way to it, and I found Acme Archives, and that was the way I got my my first licensed print was through that accidental page find by my 3-year-old son.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
That's a great story.
You never know what kids can do for sure.
Yeah,
That's a great story.
he didn't know what he was looking at. But
You had the opportunity to interact directly with those purchasing your art at Disney, specifically at the Epcot International Festival of the Arts. How have those experiences and interactions with Disney fans impacted you as an artist? And what have you taken away from those moments?
I mean, I have done licensed prints with Acme for a handful of years before I even knew Celebration existed
Hmm.
or Festival of the Arts, and before I'd ever even done any kind of Comic Con. Um, so early on, it had no influence on me other than I was just really happy to have my prints officially licensed for the few years it was before I started doing stuff. When I did start to get to things like Festival of the Arts, which this year is the first time I was ever been invited to it, um, I didn't hesitate to, because I have been doing Comic Cons and so many Star Wars celebrations for the past 10 years. Uh, I love it so much. I love meeting fans. I love doing something special on their print for them. Um, and who doesn't like to hear how great you are all day? Because that's what you hear all day long, right? And when you start hearing that a lot, you realize how good it feels, and you want to keep doing that. And so that's why I still do these shows. Um, uh, it's so weird to see people come back too and say, "Oh God, I have an entire wall dedicated to your art," and I'm like, "Wow, that is, I can't even do that in my own house." My wife was like, "No," and and
I love
then
it.
I'm honored that people buy that much of my art. And to meet them in person and hear these stories, and then I give them my card, and they'll email me photos. I should start a blog of those photos because I have so many photos that people send me of my
That'd be
artwork.
great.
And
I I
yeah,
think I told Jen that when I had the blessing of meeting Jason down there, I actually almost crashed into Belle's flower bed because I was on my way for another meeting that I had scheduled, and I'm going down on my left hand side, coming from like Japan, coming down that way towards France, and all of a sudden I saw his art and I about lost it. I was like, oh my God, I became a 10-year-old kid in a theater with my mom in 1977 again. And literally, I tried to stop the scooter I was on to try to come back over, and I slid a little bit. Almost landed in a Disney flower bed, but you know what? It was worth it to get to talk to Jason. So uh,
Awesome.
that's good. All right, let's go. I'd like to talk for a minute here about you've had the opportunity to cross paths with some truly iconic figures in the Star Wars universe. Could you share the memorable story or a memory that you have from a personal moment involving our princess herself, Miss Carrie Fisher, as well as you had something special about your experience with Lucasfilm Chief Creative Officer Dave Filoni?
Oh,
yeah. Carrie, first of all, I I have this book of my first 12 prints that it's like a small portfolio. It's, like a small handheld little book.
Hmm.
It's my first 12 prints I had licensed through Lucasfilm, and it was a series. I did quotes and ships. And I had made a small little book of it, and I call it's my autograph book. So on these pages of my art, I'm getting as many autographs as I can of people involved in the Star Wars universe. And my first celebration, 2015 Anaheim, I got tons of autographs. They weren't that expensive back then either. I think I paid $120 for Carrie Fischer.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, I got Mark Hamill. I got a whole bunch that day. But Carrie Fisher, when she signed the book, she threw confetti in the air right afterwards, and a bunch of it landed in the book, and I've saved that confetti.
Nice.
Then a couple years later, she came to the Rose City Comic Con here in Portland, and I was in Artist Alley at the time, and she came walking through and stopped at my table, and I was like, "Wow, this is," you know, I was shocked, but she looked through all my art. She picked out one that she wanted, and my brother was there with me, and he was behind me. They have handlers and stuff there too, right? So if people are trying to get photos, they try to stop you from taking photos, right? And so
Right.
my brother, who was behind me, was over my shoulder and clicked one photo, and it was her looking through a bin of my art, which is fantastic.
Oh my word.
And you can see like a little bit of my beard on the shoulder, but behind Carrie, this is the best part of the photo. Behind Carrie is her handler, who has this look on her face and her hand reaching towards us, going, "No!" It's the best. It's on my social media. If you search through it, Instagram, you'll find it.
I
It's
will do that.
hilarious. I love that photo so much. That's my Carrie Fisher story. But
Love it.
Dave Filoni, I got to meet him twice, both at Celebration 2015. Dave Filoni, he hasn't done this in the past few celebrations that I've seen, but early on, in the earlier days, he came through the art show before the place opened up and looked at everyone's art, and took photos with us, and appreciated what we were doing. I always loved that about him. Made me like him even more. And he took a photo with me, and I had a cardboard cutout of Han Solo
Uh-huh.
at my table, and so he took a photo with me and the cardboard cutout of Han Solo. So I have that photo of us together. And then the next year, Celebration was in London, and he came through and he signed my book, my autograph book.
Oh, nice.
And he not only signed it, but he drew a picture in it of a TIE fighter pilot
Oh,
with
wow.
his helmet. And he drew that on one of the pages of, I think it was That's No Moon print that I did. It's a very, very minimal print. It's got a TIE fighter in the bottom right corner, and it's got a very, very small Death Star up in the upper left corner. And then the rest of the print is black with texture, so there's grays in it. And this was back in my first series when I did I was working more with texture and color back then. You'll see fold marks, like, I distressed it basically. And a whole series of art. And so he signed that page and drew that little picture, and that's my Dave Filoni story. But it's a great book that I've got so many autographs in there now. I'm running out of space.
Very cool.
That's a great problem to
it's
have.
missing Harrison Ford. It's missing Harrison Ford and George Lucas. Those are the only two I can think of about the moment that I really, really want and I'll probably never get. So
And you know, Jason, when you do the dialogue show with Jen and I, we always come through. So everybody, you're now seeing on the screen the picture of Carrie looking through
oh yeah,
Dave's art
oh
and
yeah, look at that.
the person behind jumping in right there, trying to say no. There you
No.
go, everybody.
Isn't that great? God,
I love that.
it just makes me smile.
That's such a great
Nice.
memory. I love that. All right,
Yeah.
we'll keep going.
I want to talk about your website for a moment, jasonwchristman.com, which our mods have been dropping the link in the chat this evening. Over there, you showcase two distinct segments of your work, the Speeder series and the Ship Quote series. Can you tell us a little bit about each, what inspired them, and what fans can expect to experience when they explore those collections?
Okay, well, the quote series is 12 prints. They were all released two at a time over a long period of time, and then even years, really. Um, those were the very first ones I got licensed through Acme Archives. I thought that door had actually closed when I first sent them stuff, but it was like 6 months later they called me and said, "Hey, we loved your art you sent us whenever you had done that, and we want to print it, and it's already been approved by Lucasfilms. And what do you say?" And I was like, "Oh, great!" I thought, I didn't think I'd hear back from them, but yeah, it was 6 months later. Anyways, that whole series is, very minimal. I just try to give it some color and texture. I try to make it a piece that you could hang on your wall in any room of your house that you wanted this color or texture in, but it just has a touch of Star Wars to it as well, right? It's a
Hmm.
silhouette of a ship of some kind, and with a familiar quote from the movie. So,
Right.
um, and some people use them in their for work because they're similar to those inspirational posters that you see. One of my prints is called "Stay on Target," right? So they put that in their conference room. Someone and uh, another print called "I Got an Idea" of the ATST when Han Solo said, "Wait, I got an idea." Um, that's been in a lot of offices I hear as well. Um, and so that's been a fun series, really. I try to tie a ship into a quote as best as I could. And I actually had a dozen other ones I did too that just no one's ever seen. But um, uh, and then if you jump to the Speeder series, um, I've kind of moved away from texture for the last, you know, 5 or 6 years, and I'm working more with light than texture, as you can see in these
Hmm.
prints and my more recent stuff. Um, this series here, again, it's minimal, but it's telling sort of a vague story. Um, you know, I'm more playing off of the planets and the speeder that we saw on that planet, right? So we got the land speeder and the air speeder, or some people call it the snow speeder, and then the speeder bike. Um,
I think these
and
are great
each
though
print
because you
also,
you can relate to the
yeah,
to that scene in that planet. Just you're not saying a word there, but you can truly relate. I mean, it's
Mhm.
Mos Eisley's. It's Hoth. It's Endor. I mean, jumping out at me.
yeah. And
Right.
I had a lot of other parts to these things that I pulled out of at the end because I felt like there was too much going on.
Hmm.
So each one of these has, a handful of things, and that's it.
Mhm.
Love it.
They each of them have an equal amount of characters or icons or something Star Wars related tied to it in each one.
Mhm.
Um,
Love it. Very
So,
good.
yeah. And you know that Endor one is pretty much just, me looking out, the window. And that one was easy to do. So
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If everybody's watching tonight, Jason lives on Endor, just so everybody knows. So
pretty
uh,
close to it. Yeah, it's a
pretty close to
5 hour
it.
drive to Endor from here.
There you go. I love those segments. Well, let's jump
Mm-hmm.
over here. You had the incredible honor of being featured in 7 Star Wars Celebration events. I think the only one you missed was might have had to do with COVID, if I remember correctly. Something that most fans and artists can only dream of. Can you open up a little bit and share what it's like to be a part of those celebrations and what it's meant to you personally and professionally, and kind of how it deepened your connection to the Star Wars universe? Having those people coming around you and being so excited about that
Yeah.
must have been amazing. And for those watching, many of those incredible prints that you've seen tonight also can be found at jasonwchristman.com. So don't hesitate to click the button for that website after our interview. Go over there, go crazy. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the Star Wars celebration?
Yeah. I mean, I my first Star Wars celebration was Anaheim 2015. Um, I had not even heard of Star Wars Celebration, which I don't know how was possible until like 2013. Um, and then I, had heard, and I was like waiting and waiting for the next one to come around so I could figure out how I could try to get in it. Star Wars Celebration is very special for the artists that make it in the show, and I'm gonna tell you why that is,
Okay.
because it's a kind of a big deal. As artists, as licensed artists for Lucasfilms, we're not. I don't get to make anything I want, and it just be licensed automatically. I have to convince a lot of different people to like the print before it can ever be licensed. And I'll work on a print um, as minimal as my art is. I work a long time on some of these prints. I'll do it 1,000 different ways before I'm happy with it. And um, in the for Star Wars Celebration, it kind of they flipped the book on how the licensing and shares and percentages of the prints work when it comes to selling them. And that's why it's a big deal for us artists, because normally we only get maybe a 10% royalty on the art that we do when they're limited edition prints like this. And it really doesn't, pay the bills. It's just more street cred, really, that
Right.
we get for doing this stuff. And it's getting our art out there. And I'm honored that it has been licensed. It's a great feeling and a great avenue. And it's a nice little side hustle. But um, Star Wars Celebration, they only let 25 artists in the show.
Oh.
And, there's hundreds of artists, probably thousands of artists, really, who have had their work licensed at some point in time by Lucasfilm. And it could be a Topps trading card, it could be a t shirt design. If any artist has done work and that work had been approved by Lucasfilm in some way or another, they are considered in Star Wars Celebration's eyes as an artist who has been licensed. And those are the people who can apply to go to Star Wars Celebration, um, which is great because when I do Comic Cons, there's so much fan art. It's hard to be seen.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and they don't allow fan art at Celebration. They only allow licensed, approved art to be sold there. So being in this 25 artist alley section that we get is a great honor, because not only do we have to prove that we've done something for them in the past through one channel or another, but they vote who gets in based on the art alone, not by name. No one's grandfathered in. So my first time applying, I got in, and it changed my life because I got an 80% royalty on the
Oh,
print at the show instead of 10%.
that's a big difference.
And it's a pretty big difference. Um, and I had to print them myself. and give them 10 copies for 10 artist proofs. Usually they print them. Usually the limited edition prints are printed by Lucasfilm or Acme Archives, and then they give me 10 copies, 10 artist proofs that I can sell for myself, plus my 10% royalty on the ones I sell. But at this show, I print them. I send Lucasfilms 10 artist proofs that they can do whatever they want to with. And then I sell the rest of the show. And it's, it's the best money I ever made doing art, other than doing advertising for a living.
Love it.
But but for Star Wars art to legitimately make that money it's it's a great honor for these artists at Star Wars Celebration, and every single one of them know that when they're there. We're humbled being there,
Love it.
and I hope that other people know that when they come to these shows, that it took a lot of hard work for these artists to get in there, and there's so much great style, and all the artists are so different. Some of them are incredibly beautiful oil painters and realists, and some of them are incredible photographers, like Stephen Hayward, who does those miniature models of,
Oh
you
yeah.
could call them action figures, but he pretty much hand makes practically everything.
Yes, he
Um,
does.
and photographs them, things like that, and everything in between. So,
I love it.
and
Well,
as you can tell, I've kind of found my own niche in Star Wars art, and that's my minimalist style. Uh, I'm lucky to have kind of found this niche that hadn't been exploited, and I didn't go after this niche because of that. This is actually what I like to do. So it just kind of really worked out for me that way.
love that.
So
Well,
yeah.
congratulations on that from both Jen and
Hmm.
I. I do hope that they realize that and ask you back. And as a quick follow up to the text I got from Jen a few minutes ago, no, you cannot renegotiate with me for the Star Wars Celebration type contract. I just want to let you know. So,
And I did not get into Japan this year. I was heartbroken.
uh,
Heartbroken. It's the first one I didn't get to go to. I didn't get into 2020, but it got canceled. So it kind of worked out for me. Sorry
okay.
for everyone else who did make it that year.
Mhm.
um, but I didn't get into Japan. It's the one I wanted to go to probably more than anyone I want out there. My son has been taking Japanese for 2 years. It was like we were really excited to maybe do that show, but we didn't get to. And it was bound to happen sooner or later, right? So
Hopefully next year. Hopefully next year.
yeah, yeah,
Jen?
Well, yeah, as someone who loves to read, I was especially drawn to the fact that you've created the stunning book cover lithograph series for the original Star Wars trilogy. We have them pictured right there on the screen. Can you
yeah,
share a bit about the inspiration behind those designs and how the idea to bring them to life came about?
yeah. Well, these have a funny story to them because um, after Star Wars Celebration, someone from Disney Book Groups had contacted me uh, in 2016 and asked me if I would do a book cover series for these new books, Star Wars books that were coming out, that were Star Wars reimagined by these three other authors. I forget their names, but so these are the three designs I came up with, and in the end, they actually were not chosen. They paid me for them, which was great. It was actually pretty good money, but they didn't actually choose these ones in the end. And it's funny because the ones that they did choose were a minimalist silhouetted style type art, and I still don't know to this day who that person is.
No.
Um, but I I was disappointed that it didn't actually get to go on the book cover. But I said, well, maybe I could get paid even more money by submitting them to Lucasfilm and having limited edition prints made. And they approved them. And then next thing I got double accolades on this.
Love it.
on these
Love it.
designs.
Well,
And going back to those three prints, this is the crossover of when I started going from texture to using light. So
okay.
in this print here, you see that I'm still using texture. There's still a texture quality to these prints, but there's also one source of light in each one, from
Mhm,
Luke's lightsaber to Vader's, and then on Han Solo frozen in carbonite.
mhm.
Um, and then as I started doing after these three prints, this is when I went, ooh, light. That's my new jam. So I just start and from this point on. You're going to see the use of light used
I,
pretty much
I,
everywhere. So
I love that quote. You had a lot of great comments in there. Lila Rose said, "Awesome." TTA Traveler said, "These are amazing."
They
A
are.
lot of great comments in here as we're going through. So thank you
Mhm.
everybody for that. My favorite work right here. I love the carbonite scene. Jen knows this. I've talked about it till I'm
I know you
blue in the
talk about
face.
it all the time.
I love this one. You've created over 30 limited edition or exclusive Star Wars prints which is an
mhm.
incredible accomplishment in itself. Jason, can you share with us some of your personal favorites that you've had a chance to bring to life? And looking ahead, are there any dream pieces that you still kind of have on your bucket list that you haven't jumped into yet?
Oh yeah. I mean, I have a huge list of prints I'm still wanting to get out of my head onto the screen. Um, I don't know if anyone else has noticed this yet, but I haven't done any licensed prints outside the original trilogy yet.
I
So
was wondering.
I'm a I'm a bit of a purist. I mean, I watch and everything, right? I watch and I love everything. But I still, the, having grown up with the original trilogy, I'm a little bit of a purist when it comes to my art, I've dabbled here and there with a little bit of Mandalorian, but haven't got anything licensed yet. And I've played around with Andor a little bit too, but I haven't submitted any of that stuff yet. Um, uh, but uh, can you repeat the question
I
for me?
just, are there, what is your favorites ones that of the ones you've
My
done?
favorite one, yeah, yeah. I think whatever new one I have out is kind of my favorite one. I feel like each time I do a new one, it becomes my favorite.
Okay, good
Um,
answer.
yeah, out of the two new ones that just came out, that one that I waited 10 years to do that Han Solo, the carbonate chamber room. I waited 10 years to do that print because I felt like it had been done too many times. I felt like I've seen it over and over again in other arts, and even if it's just a part of it, like maybe you know Vader and Luke battling in there, or Han Solo, a closer version of Han Solo. Either way, the blue and orange, the contrasting colors in there are so striking. Um, I just felt like it wasn't my time yet, and so
Okay.
this year they came. I had this print come out, and this is my version of this scene, and uh, it's one of my favorites. And then the other one that came out with this print at the same time is the Droids for Sale,
The droids for sale.
uh,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and that is also my new favorite. And both of these tell a whole story. You know, it's a whole scene told in one minimalist print, if
Hmm.
possible.
Mhm.
Um,
I love that. Love it.
and my other favorite one, I think it's my favorite for many reasons. I think more than other prints would be the Death Star layer print. It's a vertically panoramic print. It's every level of the Death Star that we saw in A New Hope, from the boardroom down to the trash compactor. Like this, what you're seeing on the screen here is only half of the print.
Right.
Um,
I couldn't get the whole print on there.
yeah, it's all right. You can see it on my website, and they
Yeah.
it's 10 levels, and every level tells a story, and plays out a scene. And there's little Easter eggs in it, like the stormtrooper that hits his head and the bulkhead as he comes through, the room where 3PO and R2 are
3PO and
fighting.
R2. Yeah,
Uh, yeah, he hits his head on the bulkhead. Everyone knows that scene, right? And so I kind of put that guy in there. Um,
I love it.
you can find a mouse droid. The Dianoga trash monster. You can find his. You can find him in there, and
I would encourage everybody when you get a chance to check on Jason's website, take a look at the whole thing and send him some notes about the things that, because within it, I mean, I saw multiple things, and I think my heart jumped when I saw the Obi-Wan invader scene. I was like, it just takes you right to the movie back and
yeah,
the all the feels of everything. So
and
definitely,
that print was like doing 9 different prints in one. Every level of that print, I put just as much work into as I would a normal
Hmm.
print.
I believe it.
So
Definitely.
that print, it took me 10 times longer to do that one than it took me 9 months to do that print. I tried to do one level
Wow.
per month. That was my goal, and
Oh my Lord.
that's what
Wow.
it was. Yeah.
Well, let's jump into some other great stuff. This is cool. I'm excited. Jen, I know this is you, but I'm excited.
Over on your website, one of the standout collections is your drunk movie poster series, which is pictured on the screen now. A fun and creative twist on classic films. What inspired you to start this series, and what can fans expect to
Oh,
find when they explore them?
uh, these movie posters I did for a friend of mine who, here in the Pacific Northwest, named Chris Wilson. He uh, did a short film series called the Drunk Series, where they wrote the script drunk, and then all the actors were drunk when they filmed them playing it.
Oh my God.
So, and
That's awesome.
this was before Drunk History, by the way. This is like a year or two before Drunk History came out, and but it's just as funny, and super super funny. And my cousin, who's an actor, um, uh, he's has a lot of roles in some of these different ones. Greg James, but uh, I just, I said, you need to do something that ties all these things together, because, we need some cohesiveness. You need a brand. You got to brand this thing. So this is what I did for him. And this is the Drunk Series poster series that I did here.
Very cool.
And yeah,
I like them. We
they're super, super funny.
should make,
If you Google, if you go to, they're all on YouTube. I mean, you go to, start with Star Drunk. That's the first one, and that's the sci-fi one. You're really you will laugh. I guarantee it. I
all right,
guarantee
everybody, Jason's challenge you. Make sure you check them out. I love it. Love it.
it.
Love it. Love it.
Now I know it's a binge. Now I know it's a binge tonight.
There you go. Jen's got something to lay about. We won't hear anything from Jen for multiple hours now. Looking ahead 5 years from now, Jason, where do you see yourself both creatively and personally, kind of in your careers? What are some of the aspirations, and what can fans and followers look forward to seeing from you more in the future?
Well, I mean, in the not so distant future, like 2 days from now, I'll be at Washington State Summer Con in Puyallup, Washington. That's actually my favorite Comic Con of all the Comic Cons I've done, and I think I've done them all.
Nice.
It's a small Comic Con, but he gets the biggest names you've ever seen, and so many of them. He has the best guest lineup of any con I've ever been to.
Wow.
Steve James, who does this Comic Con. Parking is free. Tickets are inexpensive, and you can see the stars fairly up close. You're not so far back from everything, like you normally are. You can, if you can't afford to get your autograph or a photo with them, you can still see them. And of course there's the panels and stuff too, but Washington State SummerCon, that's where I'll be at this weekend, and with our droid, of course, as well.
Yes.
And but I mean, 5 years from now, gosh, I mean, I tell you, my number one goal in Star Wars right now, it's not art, it's to get my droid on the screen somehow, some way.
Okay.
R2K2 needs to be canon, and I even told like people like Chris Bartlett, who plays C-3PO now, and any other protocol droid you've seen in Mandalorians and all that kind of stuff. Great actor. Um, he's got to drive my droid around at a Comic-Con, and I told him, I said, hey, if you're on set one day and you guys said, God, I wish we had a dark evil R2 unit that we could, it doesn't have to be evil, but it is black. Um,
Right. Fits right in.
we could have in this scene. I said I could be there in 24 hours. Anywhere on the West Coast, I could be there in 24 hours. Uh, so I'm trying to find a way to make R2K2 canon. Timothy Zahn, the writer of Heir to the Empire, right? The Thrawn books, right? I've asked him several times if he plans on writing another book to please just mention R2K2. We've been neighbors at a couple Comic Cons, so I'm hoping it's really I'm driving it into him as hard as I can. I'm actually going to see him again this weekend, so I'm going to say, I'm going to tell him one more time, please make it happen.
Have you
once,
at your different events, have you met Mark Page? Have you ever had a chance to cross paths with Mark? He is an
no,
artist and former Disney Imagineer. He does a lot of great Star Wars, different, but he does it different than the norm.
he might
Um,
he might be at the. I'm doing this Rebel Scum Con. Have you guys heard of this?
yes, I've heard about that. I don't know a lot
In
about it, but I've heard about it.
Dallas. It's in
Okay.
Dallas, Texas. Last year was its first year. I was invited to come this year. So I think he's going to be there now that you mentioned it.
You ought to catch up, and
So
if you need
thank
me
you.
to, yeah,
Yeah,
if you want me to reach out to him, whatever, I think with he's drawn some great R2 units.
do that.
Might be something else there, with where we get there.
Yeah,
So
please.
okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
All right.
that would be awesome.
All right. As we finish up tonight, I want to make sure that we talk about two of your other platforms, the bluecrownmedia.com and rebelbreakroom.com. Can you share what people can find and experience on those sites?
Sure. Well, that's
Whoops. That's
bluecouchmedia.com.
yeah. That's Blue Couch.
That
That's my fault.
Yeah, Blue Couch Media. That is the name of my advertising company. I've been freelancing for 28 years, so that's just the name that my business goes by is Blue Couch
Okay.
Media, named after a mid-century modern couch that my mentor Richard Mclean gave me. That is my thinking couch, basically. And Rebel Break Room is just a blog that I started. I wanted a place to put things that I liked, that I wanted to save and maybe get some point in my life, and then I just wanted to maybe share it with people. So I started a blog called Rebel Break Room. The artwork on top, with permission by Stephen Hayward, is one of his celebration prints that we had talked about earlier, as the header there.
Nice.
And it's a Hoth break room. If the rebels had a break room on Hoth, that's what it would look like right there. So
Yes. In between
this is.
collapsing.
I thought the name Rebel Break Room was fun, so that's kind of what I called this blog. And it's got lots of Star Wars stuff. It has lots of Star Wars stuff that I didn't know existed, and so I put it out there for people to find. And then I also put other inspiring and innovative things as well that might not be Star Wars related, but just stuff I like.
I love it.
I like classic gaming, retro stuff, and mid-century modern stuff. So you're going to find all kinds of fun stuff on there. And I've kind of slowed the pace the past few months because I've been super busy. But I try to post, if not every day, at least every week. So there's always going to be something new if you come back to it from time to time that you might find. If you're looking for a gift for your dad for next Father's Day or birthday or Christmas, go to this website and dig through it. I guarantee you're going to find something for him. So
There you go. Well, and the moderators have done a great job of dropping all the links in tonight, and that's a perfect transition into. You can find Jason on Instagram. We've been dropping his Instagram in there throughout the night. He is at Star Wars Artist. Easy to find. He has his
yeah,
Facebook, Jason William Christman. You can find him over there. Debbie's been dropping the links for that. We talked about his
Cool.
website. We've been dropping the links in for his website. Really go over there, take a look at so much to check out over there on there.
Yeah,
Two
and
brand new prints. Go ahead.
yeah, the Instagram handle you just mentioned, Star Wars Artist. I got that handle as soon as Instagram came out. Star Wars Artist. It was, it's a hard one to probably have gotten, but you would think I would have way more followers than I do having that name. So please subscribe to me on Instagram so I
There you
can
go.
get those numbers to where you think it should be for a name like that. So
We'll definitely keep building that up and
yeah.
do that, of course, your website. And um, as we go through and handle everything, one thing we should tell you, Jason, is as you're, coming out with all this new stuff, and hopefully you go back with Festival of the Arts and stuff, we welcome you to come back in,
Hmm.
jump in maybe on a Friday night with us for a couple minutes, just talk about things you have coming up and all that. Because Jen and I and several other friends do a Friday night live news and merch show where we highlight things going on in the community and
Oh
promote
yeah,
all
cool.
that. So we always love
Yeah,
that. We always want to
definitely.
help, you know. So you
Yeah,
can,
I will definitely remember that. The next time I have something fun to share, I'll look you up for sure.
or even if it's just if you can't make it and you want to send us a note, we will definitely highlight it for sure.
All
Let's
right.
do a final thought
Sure,
of the
yeah.
night. We like to do a final thought here as with our guests, and I'll let our guests go first tonight, and then ladies first on our cabinet. Jen will go after you. So Jason, final thought of the night from your side of the river, because you got a great view behind. It's much better than mine. I just got a wall. So, so your final thought.
Oh, my final thought? Okay,
Yes.
well, watch and share as much Star Wars as you can. Even if you don't think you're gonna like whatever new thing is coming out, you know, I'm actually surprised. I love it all. I don't hate any of the Star Wars stuff. There's gonna be stuff I don't like and stuff I love, but I don't hate any of it. I love it all, and I I I wish you know I wish more people would love Star Wars. That's all.
I definitely think
Like my
it's
wife.
growing.
I wish my wife liked Star Wars.
Well, that I can't do anything about.
Well,
I've got a lot that I could do, but there's not on that one. TTA Traveler just said so neat. Just sub to Insta, and we'll be sharing love OG Star Wars. Thank you, TTA. I
Awesome.
appreciate you. You're always supporting us here. Jen, final thought of the night.
I just want to add that I think there are a lot of husbands in this world that wish their wives would love Star Wars more.
Thank you. I'm not
I think
alone.
that's
I'm
common.
so nice to hear.
Touche.
Yep, absolutely. No, I just want to take a moment and say thank you for sharing your talents with us, sharing your stories. Star Wars is something we haven't really touched on with our artist series. So I'm glad that we could highlight you and highlight the Star Wars. I'm so loving the use of light. I mean, you've really hit something good there with the use of light in
Yeah,
your
thank you.
prints. I'm really loving that. Um, Keep us posted with whatever you have coming up, and everybody, if you that's watching, listening, check out the links that have been dropped in the chat. Make sure you click on them, like, subscribe, all the good things, and show some love to Jason and his creative artwork.
I love it.
Thank you.
Bounce and Journey April says just started following Jason on Instagram. Anne Marie says absolutely amazing work. I really need to share Jason's work with my brother-in-law, a massive Star Wars fan or a huge Star Wars fan. Mike Beechman says thank you for joining. I've got to start learning that I need to go before my partner does, because she always says all the things that I'm saying or thinking. Jason, it's been an honor. I believe that God has a way of working things, and that day that He took me by you, I wasn't planned to go by that way, and all of a sudden there you were, and you were so genuine and so nice to sit and talk with me for a few minutes. And then when I started digging into your work and what you do, I was blown away with your creativity. Being a big Star Wars fan myself, and loving the first three because that was my first endeavor with Star Wars as well. I appreciate that you go to all these Comic Cons and festivals, and I hope Disney realizes I watched you while you were down there talk to a young Star Wars fan before I got to there, and you were kind of talking about your philosophy. And you, one thing you said to this person, they said, I don't know if you remember this or not, but they were saying, "Man, I like doing this art. I may want to try to do something similar." And you kind of told them, "Go for it. Don't drop your dream. If you believe in it and you love Star Wars, go do it." And I thought,
Yeah,
I always think that is incredible when I see an artist who is out there, and all these other people are really competition for the dollar. That so many of you all work together and support each other. And I wish you such amazing success. And we hopefully will talk with you more in the future for sure. Love that.
thank you.
So hang tight 1 second. I'm going to put you to the green room. Jen and I are going to say a quick bye, and then we'll talk to you backstage real quick for a minute, if that's okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Jen, unbelievable.
Again,
There's the R2 unit right on the screen, and appropriate that we're tapping out that way. To sit there and look at his background and just listen to him talk, and the inflection of love that he has for that's total Star Wars world. It really comes out.
you're reading my mind now. We're thinking alike. I was just thinking that, here is somebody who you can really tell loves Star Wars and loves depicting the different stories within that franchise. And he does it beautifully.
He does a really good job. Well, the magic continues here with
Mhm.
Jen and I on the Pete McDivitt Show and Disney Dialogues, conversations with the Magic Makers. As July 1, it's only a couple weeks away, another Disney Imagineer comes to sit down with us, as Theron Skis is going to be sitting here. His hands have touched a lot over his career. We'll talk more about that over the next coming weeks. I know the Imagineers bring a different avenue than our authors or our artists, but man, we just keep finding ways to dig deeper into the magic beyond just riding the carousel at the park, which we all love.
Yep. Yep.
So,
There's so many different aspects to all of this that it's just really it's unlimited what we can bring, and we're going to bring it all.
we're working hard. We've got a lot of things on the horizon. Thank you to the moderators tonight for dropping all the links in. If you're watching on the replay, hit a like, or if you didn't do it on the live on the way out, help us out with that. And if you know somebody who loves Star Wars, do me a favor, share this link over to them and say, hey, even if you're not asking you to subscribe or anything, but just check out this artist, what he can bring, and definitely go to his website. Y'all, there's a lot of good stuff there. Jen, thank you for another great interview here. It's
Thank
been
you.
great to dialogue with you tonight. And I look forward to the next time we're together. Good night, everybody. It's been a lot of fun. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.